live. We are using a program called StreamYard. So the way that works is there's usually a little bit of a delay before we come up live for you, which is why I'm talking right now to fill that space. Thank you so much for joining us. It is the second day of National Novel Writing Month, November the 2nd. We are the WordNerds. We are a vlogging group on YouTube, and we have videos every Tuesday and Thursday about reading and writing, all the things. And then every Sunday, we have a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time live chat, and we love NaNoWriMo. And so for the month of November, we are doing write-ins every Sunday. But also we are here today, which we are so excited about. Shout out to NaNo for having us. Thank you so much. We will be doing some word sprints, some shorter sprints. We're going to start with a 5-minute warm-up sprint after we all introduce ourselves, and we will have prompts that go with those sprints. You don't have to use the prompts, but they are there if you are feeling a little bit stuck and you kind of want a little bit of inspiration. And we will check in at the end of the sprint, share our word counts, encourage each other. You are welcome to ask any reading or writing related questions that you want in the discussion section, and we will try to answer them while we're live. If we miss your question, there's just a lot of comments going on. We definitely apologize. Please re-ask the question, and we will try to get to it time permitting. This is going to last about an hour. And so, yeah, we will just get started. I'm Meghan. I'm going to be the host of today. I am writing a horror with ghosts and things, and I am about 4,000 words in, like 4,100. I'm trying to do reverse now, so we'll see how that goes. Next up on my screen is Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm also working on a horror novel about ghosts.
Hey, I saw your title on NaNo yesterday, and I was like, hey.
Yeah. But I am at a big fat 0. I have not started because school has been kicking my butt. So
nice.
Here we go.
Emma?
I'm working on a high fantasy. I'm like nanoing rebelliously because I've been working on the book for a while, and I'm just trying to finish it this month. And I have written 0 words so far in NaNo because also school.
Kyra.
Hey, I'm Kyra. I'm working on a YA contemporary romance, and I'm about 4,000 words in as well.
Yay. Erin, or E.
Hi, I'm Latimer. I apologize because I'm either lagging or, I think I'm lagging a bit. But I'm the author of The Strange and Deadly Portraits of Bryony Gray, as well as Witches of Ash and Ruin, which you can see over my shoulder. And today I am working on a high fantasy about gay plant druids and sexy demon kings, and I'm 2,000 words into it.
So
yes. And Desiraye?
I'm Desiraye. I am working on a YA fantasy with like court intrigue things. I am a little over 2,000 words into it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for everyone who is in the discussion section right now, sharing where they are from. We are so glad you're here. We've got people from India to the UK to Indiana. And we are just so excited that you're here. Let us know if you are nanoing rebelliously or if you are being more of a nano purist. And we will get started in 1 minute at the 5 with our warm-up sprint. So it's going to be 5 minutes long. And the prompt for that, all the prompts today are themed around kind of helping you get to know your characters and your plot. Since it's only day 2, a lot of us don't have any words written yet. It's all new. So the prompt is going to be, what is one choice that your character will make during this write-in that will make them get closer to the antagonist, whether they realize it or not? And then the rest of them will be more like scene-based prompts. But this one just kind of gets you started thinking. We've probably got 30 seconds before the sprint starts. And I will type the prompt up in the discussion section in case you missed it. So don't worry about that. Just keep an eye out for it. It might show up under the WordNerds. It might show up under the NaNo account. Who knows? Time will tell. This is all new, so please forgive us if there are any technical difficulties, but that doesn't matter. It's time to write. Check-in will be at the 10. Good luck. And time. Those warm-ups always go so fast.
Mhm.
So how did that go for everyone?
Good.
I
have
didn't
words
get
now.
anything written. 0 words. I was reading over my work.
Oh,
I got about 100 words.
how many did you say?
Wow.
100.
Nice.
Putting us all to shame over here.
Sitting at 162.
Nice.
How dare.
I was just a ball of anxiety trying to make sure I had everything organized. In our pre-chat that you guys did not see, there was all sorts of technical difficulties, but I'm really glad it's not happening now. But I have everything organized now, so hopefully the next sprint goes a little better. We've got people sharing their word counts in the discussion section right now. You guys are doing great. Yeah, there's so many. I'm so glad you're all here. I'm so glad we're all writing together. All the happy feelings. Let's see. We had a couple people talking about not being sure about who their antagonist was. One mentioned not feeling like they had an antagonist because they were writing a romance, and one just feeling like they hadn't plotted enough yet to have an antagonist. So I was wondering, what are y'all's tips for coming up with some sort of antagonist, regardless of what you're writing?
Well,
The antagonist is not necessarily a person, right? It's anything that's like preventing the characters. And that's I think about this a lot in terms of romance, because sometimes I will read these like pitches for romance books or whatever, and I won't see like a clear sense of conflict. Right. So as a romance writer, like you have these two characters and you know they're perfect for each other. So that's one of I think the hard things about writing romance is you have to figure out like, okay, how am I going to keep these two people who are perfect for each other apart for the duration of the book, right? Like, how am I going to make it compelling? So once you can answer that question, then I think you know what your antagonist or antagonistic forces are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if it's like something that is not a romance, that's a great answer. I was literally going to say that. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, a snidely whiplash, mustache twirling guy. If it's going to be like something that's in the way of your romance novel characters getting together. But if you can't figure out what you want to do for like almost any other genre, what I love to do for fantasy is just like, if I don't have a clear bad guy yet, picking whatever it is that my main good guy wants and making up a villain that wants the opposite of what they want. So inevitably they're going to clash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. We had a question from Valentina Steiner. How obvious should the antagonist be?
It doesn't have to be obvious at all.
Yeah.
My antagonist is very not obvious until like towards the end, because there's a big plot twist. So it could be, completely red herring, or it can be super obvious snidely whiplash if you want.
Yeah. Just kind of whatever works for the story that you're trying to tell. Mine, the antagonist, is just like a bunch of spooky trees. So it's like, it's gotta be kind of meta, I guess.
The best type of antagonist.
Yeah.
Angry forest.
Yeah. Death. The ultimate antagonist in all horror.
What a mood.
Yeah, so let's move right into the next sprint in 1 minute, and then we can take a little bit of a bigger break after the next one. This sprint is going to be 10 minutes. We're going to be trying to work our way up to 15-minute sprints, and the prompt for it is introduce a character who is a foil to your main character. This doesn't have to be the villain if your villain isn't like on page yet. Just some person who kind of goes against what your character wants or what their ideals are. And it is starting now. Yeah. Starting now, we will check in at the 25. Good luck. And time. Let us know how that went for you in the discussion section. I got 158 this time.
Woo! I got 323.
Yeah.
531.
At 248.
I got 344.
Yes. All killing it. Oh, I got so worried about opening a new tab that I was writing on my phone, which is really fun. I'm a big fan of the website For the Words, the number 4 and the words. And they didn't used to work on mobile, but now they do.
Oh, I didn't know that they had an app now.
It's not an app,
didn't know
but
they
before it was just like a really
either.
big thing to use the website on the phone, but now you can.
Oh, nice.
We had a question, would there be a replay of this? And yeah, once we go off air, it'll take maybe like 10 minutes to process the video, and then it will be on the NaNo channel until the NaNo channel does not exist. So it'll be here. So definitely come back and watch it if you have to go. And yeah, they'll be having a ton of other write-ins and things too. So hopefully we can keep being super productive. Let's see. Welcome to everyone who is showing up. We had a comment from Sahil who said, wow, the Comic Sans thing works, which is a trick I really want to try still. I haven't done it yet.
It's so good.
Yeah. I know Desiraye has a video on her channel where she tried it.
It's horrifyingly effective because I really hate Comic Sans, but it's very effective.
Makes it so you just don't want to look at your words. If you haven't heard of the Comic Sans thing, it's someone proposed it on Twitter, I believe it was, as a possible method for writing faster. If you write in the font Comic Sans, you allegedly write much faster.
It's actually because it helps people with dyslexia because your brain processes the font differently and more. I just said more better. What a word.
Much more better.
Much more better. But that's the reasoning behind it. So that's why it works.
Yes. Let's see. Congrats to leaara, who said, I had a eureka moment. Way to go.
Yes.
Those are the best. I believe there's a little badge you can add on your NaNo page. You know, how you can click those little badges. It's like, I'm a pantser, I'm a plantser. There's one that you can turn on your account once you've had a eureka moment for your book. Let's see. Kelly Christmas said, totally ended up inventing a character just for the prompt. Yay! Got some people who love For the Words. Yeah, big fan. I'm very quickly scrolling through while I'm doing this, looking for any comments and stuff. Are you guys more plotters, pantsers, or something in between?
I am definitely a plotter now. I used to be a pantser, but I have converted because my pantsed drafts are just a complete disaster, and then it's a lot of work to fix it afterwards. So full plotter now.
I'm definitely really close to the plotter end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm closer to plotter than I used to be. Used to be hardcore pantser. Like, I hated outlines so much, but it's a mess when I try to write without one. So I'm like in the middle, but closer to plotter now.
When I'm
still a
writing,
fairly hardcore pantser.
when I'm writing outside of NaNo, I tend to be more on the pantser side of the spectrum. But the minute that there's a time frame, it's like, okay, I need a plot. Here we go.
I feel like a lot of us are like a mashup of the two, or like somewhere floating in the middle. What did we call it? Astronauting?
Yes. Because you're floating in space, but tethered
you're
to the
still
space station.
Yeah. It's a good word.
Yeah. Q-word, he said, just write in wingdings.
I think it's Clarabelle Ortega who jokes about that every time the Comic Sans discussion comes up.
Yeah.
Like, I read the ring things.
Oh,
no. We'll start our next sprint at the 35, and I think since we are keeping it at an hour, that'll probably be our last sprint. But we'll get to that. We had a question from Valerie. Any advice for foreshadowing, particularly in dream scenes? Need all the tips.
Ooh, good question. I do not put in foreshadowing as I write, because I write from beginning to end. So I go back and add foreshadowing because it's always easier that way. Yeah. It can either be like really subtle, like little hints at things, or like I can't remember what book I was reading recently where it was like I knew the ending, but I think it was Fangirl. Mild spoilers for Fangirl, but actually not even, because the sister says something about how she has her life together, or how something is not a problem for her, except I know reading it that it's going to be a big problem for her later. So she kind of almost comes out right and says it. And as a reader, you're kind of looking at that and you know, like, ooh, okay, this could be like something that comes back. It's like saying, oh, what could possibly go wrong? Or like, oh, it can't get worse than this. Yeah.
Those are like absolute statements. Like, this person would never do this.
Yeah. So it could be as obvious as that, or like much more subtle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely in dream sequences. I tend to err on the side of more subtle because you already don't want like too many dream sequences in a book, and I don't want it to be like too obvious. If it's like they're being chased by their crush or something, it's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you could add symbolism in there or something, so it's not as obvious.
We had a question from Margaret Luke. How can you show the depth of the characters in your books?
Lots of layers. So you have to do like a lot of different like there are a lot of different ways to reveal things about your characters, and you have to incorporate as many as you kind of like organically can. Right. So that is a hard question.
I am a huge fan of the book The Emotional Craft of Fiction by Donald Mass. There's a lot to this question and answering it, and there's no way we could do it in 5 minutes, but I do think that it is so crucial for books, and Donald Mass's The Emotional Craft of Fiction, that entire book goes into how to do this, how to give your characters emotional depth so that your book has more resonance, and I love it. I use it every time I'm revising.
I think that the reason we're having trouble answering this is because, like Meghan said, we could literally do a full hour, 2-hour chat on this question. And you can like really reveal what your character's like through anything, through other characters, through how they interact with their setting around them, how they react to like even the inciting incident and the climax, and like almost everything can be used to reveal your character's personality and their motivations. And so yeah, reading something like Donald Mass's book is a really great starting place, and then just paying attention to how your favorite characters, how they're revealed to the reader, and in what little ways the author is doing that. But yeah, we could do a whole chat on this.
So we've got 1 minute until our next sprint. It's going to be a 15-minute sprint, and then maybe we'll do a cool down at the very end or something, depending on how much time we have left. I know we've got a couple of good questions about like nano process and making sure you get the word count if it's not feeling like you have enough story. So I definitely want to talk about that. So we'll do that after this next sprint. The prompt for it is going to be, where is it? have this scene take place in the same place where your climax will happen if possible. If not, have it take place in a setting that will play a large part in your story. With that, it is time. We will check in at the 50. Doing some math in my head right there. Our check-in will be at the 50. Good luck, everyone. And time. How did that one go for all of you?
640.
520. I think I got like 220.
I got like 325.
437.
Nice.
520.
Excellent. Let us know how you did in the discussion section. We've had a lot of good discussion going on. Let's see. Everyone is doing so well. We've got Adventures in Fantasy got 418, Miss Lilac 370, Tanya Simpson got 1,061, and then my chat refreshed and put like 50 more. But you guys are doing so great. Dogs in my backyard. Barking. Yeah, so we had a question that I'm going to paraphrase because there's no way I'm going to find it again on the chat. Someone was talking about how they have started writing their book for NaNo and have already gotten to a point in the plot that it's feeling like maybe the book is going to be a lot shorter. And when you're having something like that happen, how can you beef up the words basically to make sure that you get to 50K?
Hi, yes, this happens to me every year. I'm a really chronic underwriter, and especially when I'm like in NaNo and it's wild and whatever, I pretty frequently have things end up being like way on the short end. So I just like send people on random tangents. I'm also, like I said, pretty on the pantsing side. So this might not work as well if you're more committed to like an actual plot outline. But usually at some point, and usually it's when I kind of feel like things are starting to lag anyway, because pacing is hard and whatever. I just think like, what's something really bad that can happen to my characters right now? And then I like make them deal with that for a little while. Yeah. And after NaNo, you can go back and figure out if those tangents actually work or not. Usually they end up being pretty messy and I have to like fix them quite a bit, but almost always when I do that, I find something within that I'm like wanting to keep that adds to, you know, whatever else I have going on.
Were you going to say something, Desiraye?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that I'm also like a super underwriter. And so if you are getting to the point where you think that it's going to be really, really short, make sure that you're describing your scenes well. I know that is a big problem that I have, that I don't fully describe my scenes or my characters or things that are going on. And it makes everything shorter. So if you look and you're doing that, then throw your characters into random situations. But definitely take a look at making sure that everything is accurately described and you're setting the scene well.
I'm going to strongly agree with that, because if I find that I'm not getting as many words as I thought I would, it's almost always, at least for me, like they're standing there in a white room talking to each other. Okay, got to go back and add some actual setting.
Yeah, I also am a recovering underwriter. My drafts are starting to get a little more normal in word count. But one of the things I've started doing that has made that happen is just really letting myself just go crazy with the descriptions. Like if they are thinking it, I write it. If they are in the room, I describe it as much as I can. And it's particularly helpful for NaNo, but also I feel like from a storytelling perspective, it helps me, especially at the beginning, to really get to know the characters and the setting and the plot better. If I let myself take that time to just describe it all, and then, you know, I can always go back and trim out what doesn't actually need to be there. And by the end of the draft, by the end of NaNoWriMo, I know it all well enough to know like what plot points need to be beefed up to give it more. But the first draft, and especially NaNoWriMo, it's just all having fun and exploring. Let's see. We had someone, Jessica mentioned that their story is a short story, but part 1 of 3, and all 3 together will make the novel, which is also something you could consider. Like, could there be a second part to your story that you could like write the sequel? Let's see. We had a shout out to Desiraye's blue hair, which is amazing. We had a question from Leah about what our NaNo usernames are. I will put those in the discussion section when we get a second. We had a question kind of related from Joyce. Any tips on describing a scene well? And I'm going to be putting.
I try to focus on the aspects of the scene that the character's like directly interacting with. Right. So if it's something they're like physically touching, or to me, that tends to make it more meaningful than if it's just like, yeah, this thing is in the room, but it doesn't have any actual like, you know, effect on the scene or what's going on, or, you know.
I really like mixing up my dialogue with not just, you know, the dialogue tags, he said, she said, but like sort of like Kyra said, the characters interacting with their environment. So maybe they sink down onto the couch while they're saying something, or maybe, I don't know, they wave their hands while they're having a fight and whack the lamp or something. I don't know. So you can sort of go, and also you can use setting to really tell the reader about the characters. Like, I know we talked earlier about how in the Raven Boys, Maggie Stiefvater tells us a lot about the Raven Boys by when Blue first goes into Monmouth manufacturing, and like she sees it as kind of messy and very lived in, and there's like a pair of underwear still in a pair of pants like just on the floor, and there's Adam's like mint leaves growing there. Like everything about that place shows you like a little glimpse into the heads of the boys, essentially. So she does that really well.
I used to teach a creative writing unit in a class that I taught. And one of the exercises we do, I'd put up like a picture on the board, and then I'd have people like kind of write a description of that scene. And like everyone could be looking at the same picture, and like they'd all react very differently to it. So for example, I'd had one that was like this snowy park, and some people would write this scene that's like, yay, it's snow, it's like Christmas and happy and like whatever. And then other people would be like, I'm not going outside in that, it's cold, I'm going to slip and fall and die. So even with the same scene, like people are going to react really differently. And so I think that's a really compelling way to work description into your storytelling, is thinking like, what does this description like tell me about the character, who's like how they're seeing the world.
And then you've got it working double duty. You're showing what your character is like and what their personality is like and what the setting is doing.
And it creates like an emotional resonance with your scene, because otherwise I think setting is kind of like, for me, the least interesting part of a book. But if it's somehow connected to the emotion of the story, then it's a lot more compelling.
Yes, you can also play with stuff like themes and like the atmosphere of your book. Like if you read something like, oh boy, my brain just short-circuited. If you read something like The Devouring Grey, the forest, it's like a haunted, creepy, monstrous forest that really plays into the atmosphere of the book, right? It's very dark and magical. And while it's a setting, it's also almost a character in itself. And she does that really well. So.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time for today. But thank you so much for being here. We've got a link to our channel down in the description. We'll be doing another write-in tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Don't forget that the time is changing tonight, I believe. So definitely make a note of that. We'll be here, not here, our channel, 7:30 every Sunday during NaNoWriMo, writing for about an hour and a half. Usually we do 20-minute sprints over there. And we would love to see you over there, love to have you. We will also be back on this channel on November the 16th at the same time. So 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we would love to see you all there then as well. Thank you so much for being here. If we didn't get to your question or your comment, I apologize. There's just a ton going on and it's only an hour, but definitely find us over on our channel. It tends to be a slightly smaller audience, and so there's a little bit more time to talk more in depth. And we love talking about NaNoWriMo, so we would love to have you over there. And last thing, oh yes, on November 17th, we're going to be doing a 4-hour write-in on our channel. So we would love to have you there for that too. And yeah, does anyone have any final thoughts before we call this?
Great nanoing, guys.
Yeah.
Yay, team. We will see you all later. Thanks again for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Broadcast takes a minute to end.